So professions in the War Within work in a very similar way as they did in Dragonflight. This meaning that whether you're trying to make gold or craft the best gear, specialization points are going to be one of the most important parts of progressing any profession, whether it be gathering or crafting. So in this video, I want to go over every current way you're able to go about earning profession points to be able to heavily progress your specialization trees. And this is going to allow you to just make a lot more gold either gathering items, crafting gear, or crafting other materials just to sell for gold. Now, earning specialization points is going to differ depending on if it's a crafting or gathering profession, so I think the best place to start is to go over all the ways you can earn specialization points that aren't specific to any one profession. So these are going to be things that you can go into no matter what profession you're on, and they're usually going to give the same amount of specialization points no matter what profession you're using. Now, the first of these being the one-time treasures you can find in every single one of the new War Within zones. So within all of the new zones, there'll be 2 treasures per profession that you can go pick up as a one-time pickup, and every single one of these treasures is going to give you 3 specialization points. So this means if you go through every zone, you'll be able to get 24 points just from these one-time treasures. And I would also recommend you go download the Handy Notes add-on and make sure to get the War Within version of this. This add-on will just add like all of the rares and treasure chests on your map, but what's really nice about the profession specific treasures is that whatever professions you currently have, it will only show those treasures and it will show you those locations with the symbol of the profession you have. So if you say have enchanting, when you go look on your map, it'll show an enchanting symbol so you can go and find these treasures very easily. Now, in a similar vein, there's also one-time profession books you can get in Ashkahet from the City of Threads, and these one-time profession books will give you 10 specialization points. So that's an additional 10 for both of your professions, but these books are actually going to cost a new currency to this zone called Kej, and just going through the main campaign or going to the Weaver's Lair, there will be a purple triangle quest there that kind of tells you about this new currency and the different vendors you can use it on. And there's a bunch of different ways to get this new Kej currency. Just doing any of these side quest lines in the zone and completing them will usually give you a bunch of Kej. You can get Kej from certain rares in this zone, from any weeklies in this zone, and then from the new rumors activities, you can also get Kej from those. So once you get into the end game, specifically once you get a character to level 80 and unlock this new rumor system, that will allow you to get a lot of Kej because every single one of these books will cost 560 Kej. But if you're not at the point yet to do these endgame systems, just go do some of these side quest chains. You'll get a good chunk of Kej at the end of all of those. Now, the final piece of these one-use specialization points is going to come from one of the vendors of the Artisans Consortium that you can find in Dornegal. So in the main city, there will be an area where all of the Artisans Consortium faction are located, and there'll be a vendor there named Lyrandel, and this vendor will sell you one-time use books that give you 15 specialization points. Now, these books are going to have a bit higher of cost because they're going to cost the Artisan's Acuity. And this is the much more useful currency that you'll obtain from pretty much doing anything on your profession. There'll also be a quest with the Artisan's Consortium that will give you 350 just for talking to the work order NPC, so you can get a big chunk from that as well. But it is going to cost a good chunk of this currency, and there's also going to be 3 books for every profession. So that's 45 specialization points, but each one of these books has a different cost. So the first book costs 200, I think. Then the second book, I think, costs 400, but those books are one-time use and every single one of them gives you the 15 specialization points. Now, if you're a crafting profession, you're going to have to weigh using this Artisan's Acuity on crafting higher tier items or whether you want to get more specialization points. If you're a gatherer or you're using 2 gathering professions, this currency really isn't super useful, so I definitely recommend picking these up first. Now, there are some additional one-time use items from the different renowns, but these are going to require you have a much higher renown. I think getting into the mid-teens is when you'll start to get some of these. So those can give you a bunch of additional points, but you have to do a lot of grinding this early on to get to those higher renowns. One of the best ways is probably just going to be to level up a bunch of ults and then do the weeklies to give a lot of reputation, and then maybe go and complete all of the side quests on all of those different characters characters, but this is definitely a bit of a more long-term goal to get these specialization points from the different renowns. So all of these one-time use items are going to give you a pretty large chunk of starting knowledge points to progress into your specializations and get a pretty good start to whatever you're trying to accomplish. Now, past all of the one-time use items, you're getting into actually using your professions, whether it be crafting or gathering, and then doing some weekly quests. And the first part of that is weekly quests. At whatever professions you have, that profession trainer in Dornegal will have a weekly quest for you. It's usually craft something, or if we're gathering professions, it's bring them a certain amount of materials, and every week you'll be able to get 3 knowledge points from this. But past that, the majority of the additional points you're going to be getting is from using your professions. Now, as mentioned, this is going to work a little bit differently if you're a gathering or crafting profession. Now, gathering is a bit more simple. For herbalism and mining, every single new node you go gather will give you 1 specialization point. That includes all of the different variations with the enhanced nodes, so you can get quite a lot of knowledge points just going around and gathering 1 of every possible node. And while skinning is also a gathering profession, skinning doesn't actually have this for some reason. It does seem like skinning is getting quite a lot less points right now. But on top of that, there's also some additional weekly points you can get for all of the gathering professions just going and gathering. For mining and herbalism, anytime you go gather a node, there's a chance you get one of these items that will give you 1 knowledge point, and you can get 5 of those weekly. And then you can also get an epic version of this that, again, you just get from gathering nodes that I think it gives you either 3 or 4 knowledge points. I think that may change depending on what profession it is. And skinning does also have this mechanic as well, so you can go get these random drops from just skinning any enemies. It'll give you 1 specialization point. Then you can also get the epic version that will give the 3 or 4 points as well. Now, for this portion of gaining specialization points, enchanting actually works like a gathering profession. You instead get these weekly knowledge points from disenchanting items. So it works the exact same way as gathering. You just need to go disenchant items. Then you'll get these random drop items from the disenchant that'll give you some more knowledge points. The same as the gathering professions, you can get 5 a week, and then you can also get the epic one. Now, besides enchanting, it doesn't seem that the other crafting professions have these small amount of knowledge points you can get on a weekly basis, and that's because all of the crafting professions get knowledge points for their first time crafts for every craft you can do. So anytime you learn a new recipe and you craft that item the first time, it will give you some additional knowledge points. That's one of the big ways where crafting professions will get a lot of their knowledge points, because not only are they going to learn a ton of recipes from the trainer, but then you have all the recipes from all the renowns, the Artisans Consortium vendor, and then just a bunch of other random vendors spread throughout the expansion. And on top of that, crafting professions also have the new patron system for work orders. Now, in Dragonflight, work orders were just something that players would put up, and then other players would craft that item for them. Now, there are NPC work orders, which are these patron work orders, and they will ask you to craft them random items, random pieces of gear, or other things your profession can craft. And some of those work orders will also reward you with an item that gives you 1 knowledge point. Now, if I'm not mistaken, these are also capped, I think, on a weekly basis as well. So these are kind of equivalent to the gathering profession's weekly knowledge points, but I'm not 100% sure on the cap of how many of these knowledge points you can get from the new patron system. Now, if you're somebody that's going to be sticking with these professions for long periods of time, Inscription can also make these books that can give 1 knowledge point per week. Now, these books are bind on pickup, so you have to start a work order so an inscriptor can come craft that work order, and then you'll be able to get the book. But that's only 1 knowledge point per week, so that's mainly for people who are going to be following through on their professions for like months into the expansion. We're getting 1 knowledge point per week would actually build up into something meaningful. So just a small correction at the end of the video, crafting professions do have another way of gaining knowledge similar to the gathering professions weekly knowledge that they can get just from, say, gathering nodes. The crafting professions can get some knowledge from like picking up treasures and sometimes from killing enemies. I know back in Dragonflight, picking up treasures and killing specific enemies could give you knowledge points on a weekly basis, but I'm not 100% sure if they're working in the same way in the War Within. And I'm not sure if it's just that this was changed because there's more ways to gain knowledge now, or if these knowledge points are either bugs or just much more rare to get in the War Within. So if you're in a crafting profession, maybe try to go pick up some of the treasures you can find everywhere and see if you can get some additional knowledge points. But this seems to be all of the ways you can currently gain knowledge in the War Within. Seems like there's a lot more ways to gain knowledge and a lot more overall knowledge points to get early on, but you're gonna have to jump through a few hoops to get all of the knowledge points to progress your specialization trees as much as possible. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.